From the 1900s to the 1930s, emerging from New Orleans, the music scene integrated blacks and whites in nightclubs and dancing halls. During Prohibition, jazz was known as the devil's music, and over 60 communities across the nation enacted laws prohibiting jazz in public places. However, Louis Armstrong was a huge influence for music all over America. Some of his top songs were What a Wonderful World and Stardust, and many more. Jazz continued to evolve into upcoming decades.
The evolution of jazz continued on into the 30s with Frank Sinatra, Duke Ellington, and Squirrel Nut Zippers. Moving into the 1940s, Latin jazz started becoming very popular in America. The blend of music between rhythms and instruments of Cuban and Spanish Caribbean mixed with jazz was a hit in the 40s. It was understandable why they also called the genre Afro-Cuban jazz because of the affiliation with Cuban blend. Going into the 50s, country music started picking up. Johnny Cash and Hank Williams was on every jukebox in town. Though country started picking up, the 50s was known more for the start of rock music. Elvis Presley became the talk of the town with his new dance moves and unforgettable songs. Even though rock music started in the 50s, it progressed exponentially in the 60s.
The 60s began with soul music topping the charts from artists like Stevie Wonder, Janis Joplin, Marvin Gaye, The Temptations, and Bob Dylan. Soul music delivered hope and inspiration. You could dance, sing, and fall in love with hits like Ain't No Mountain High Enough, Respect, I Just Called to Say I Love You, My Girl, Knockin' on Heaven's Door, and many more. The 60s also brought the British invasion, which featured the Beatles, the Dave Clark Five, the Kinks, the Rolling Stones, and The Who. The Beatles, by far the most popular group from this time in music, formed in Liverpool in 1960, but became a huge hit in America by 1964. The 70s brought on rock and roll, with bands like Queen, Electric Light Orchestra, Pink Floyd, Rush, and Kansas. Their music is categorized as progressive rock, which is rock music combined with another genre, such as classical or opera. Songs were often longer and bands were more spontaneous while playing live. The best example of this is Queen's Bohemian Rhapsody. The 70s also included John Denver, the Eagles, Elton John, the Village People, and the real JT, James Taylor. And then there was the 80s. This time period seemed to turn out a lot more solo acts instead of bands. For example, Madonna, Cyndi Lauper, Michael Jackson, Prince, Whitney Houston, Bruce Springsteen, John Mellencamp, Ozzy Osbourne, and Bon Jovi. Don't get me wrong, there were plenty of good bands from this time as well, including Aerosmith, Guns N' Roses, Metallica, Motley Crue, Def Leppard, and Van Halen. MTV was also first aired on August 1st, 1981, which was arguably the most important musical influence in the 80s. The original concept was to play music videos 24/7 every day. The 1980s brought a lot of music we still know and love today, like Tainted Love, In the Air Tonight, Billie Jean, Wake Me Up Before You Go Go, and Never Gonna Give You Up.
As we hit the 90s, American music genres continued to expand from earlier genres such as rock and roll, country, jazz, and began to diversify with hip-hop, alternative, pop, heavy metal, R&B, punk, blues, and techno, with artists from Green Day to George Strait, Tupac, Backstreet Boys, Red Hot Chili Peppers, System of a Down, Destiny's Child, and Blink-182. The 90s burst into the 21st century with more music and genres and styles than ever before. Not only has music evolutionized in the US, but its music and artists have spread worldwide, making it its own revolution that can't be stopped. And Beyonce is queen.
Absolutely. Also, we're on tour, so definitely